In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got a nearly equal amount of heavy, thrash, and death metal, but with a bit of doom tossed into the mix as well. Also, if you saw my vacation video last week, you know some of the albums I'm going to discuss, but in greater detail. In any case, stick around and let's get to the metal. First up is the latest EP from Swedish epic doom metal band Candlemass. This is Black Star, released in 2025 by Napalm Records. So the EP was put out in celebration for the band's 40th anniversary, which includes 2 new songs and 2 cover songs. Starting with the title track, which opens with slow and mournful vocals, accompanied by acoustic guitar, though this quickly shifts to big doomy power chords and the simple repeating of the song title as the chorus. Then a bit of back and forth between the 2 passages. Really enjoyed the first breakaway segment with a great riff and some light wah-drenched soloing. After another verse part, another breakaway segment comes in with a more gallop-centered riff and ponderous soloing. The end segment revisits the main riff, but with an increase in heaviness, along with Johan's ramped-up vocals and a more epic vibe. Overall, I liked the song when I first heard it, but I've really grown to love it now with repeat listens. After this is the instrumental track Corridors of Chaos, and right away you can hear more of that classic Candlemass sound here. Like many of their songs, this too keeps in a slow to mid doomy pace, along with some sweet solo passages weaving their way from time to time. Also love the crunching riff that takes the track out. Flipping over to side 2, we get their rendition of the Black Sabbath song Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and yes, a predictable choice for a doom metal band, but it's clear that Sabbath is in this band's DNA, so it makes a bit of sense. Johan switches up between his gruff snarls and his higher soaring yells, and he does drop to lower notes from some of the higher ones of the original, but we're all getting older. I get it. Regardless, there is a real energy and enthusiasm here that carries the track, and it makes it very listenable. Really love how utterly crushing the bridge riff is, and its completely headbangable quality. I'll even go further and say this version buries the Anthrax one, which is a popular classic cover of the track, and that's coming from someone who actually likes the Anthrax version. As for the Candlemass one, it does conclude with an interesting segment all their own, with a drum passage also attributing Children of the Grave, mixed with some dissonant riffing and eerie pick slides. Definitely dig it. And then the EP ends with their version of Pentagram's Forever My Queen, which brings them more into mid-pace territory with more energetic soloing and a solid heavy riff, not to mention Johan's almost unhinged vocals, full of epic insanity. There's a definite rock catchiness to it, and some might just pick this one as a standout track. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Classic Black. There's the reverse there for you. Also has an insert, graphic on one side, and lyrics on the other. It also has a gatefold, which you don't see on EPs a lot. Black Star there for you. Pick of the band. As for favorites, definitely Black Star as well as Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. And speaking of both, there are visualizer videos available for Black Star as well as Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. You can find both of those at the Napalm Records YouTube channel. So this is a nice little holdover until the band puts out a full-length release. And as far as legacy doom metal bands go, I still feel that Candlemass really does it the best. And so I'm pretty glad I picked this one up. Next is the debut studio album from Spanish heavy metal band Sinner Rage. This is Power Strike, released in 2025 by Dying Victims Productions. So some classic heavy metal riffing, somewhere between Judas Priest and Lizzie Borden, brings us into the title track, and the singer seems to be channeling Michael Sweet of Striper, with that band's overall vocal style really coming out in the harmonic heavy chorus parts, some of which bordering on hair metal. However, the singer varies his style a bit in other tracks, bringing in more of a trad metal toughness, alongside some serious wails, but also some punch. Also hearing faint hints of 80s Queensryche and 80s Fates Warning, especially in the verse part of Silent Thunder and Chained by Night, but it largely sits in a more riffy hard rock catchiness mixed with, again, trad metal. And I know they've called themselves progressive metal, but I'm just not hearing all that much prog, if any at all. Solo work is likewise catchy and competent with plenty of taps, speed runs, and fret harmonics. And at the risk of using the term catchy one too many times, the songcraft here provides plenty of earworms and sing-along moments, notably in the choruses. So, yeah, catchy. Occasionally, they do turn up the speed a bit, and the most blatant example of that would be Angel of Combustion. In fact, that does remind me that side 2 ramps up the energy a bit more in general, but without diminishing the fun of side 1. Still, I really dig that they pronounce it combustion. Love that. Anyways, the album ends with the track Dangerous Attraction, which definitely brings us back to the hair metal adjacent rocking from tracks on side 1 a bit. And I'm catching moments of heavier Skid Row meets Kulick era Kiss riffing, but maybe a splash of Dokken as well. It's a solid track to close out the record. Anyways, vinyl variant here is 1 LP splatter. Down there. Same on the reverse. So I have an insert, picture of the band, and lyrics on the back. Since this is Dying Victims, you also get a lot of other goodies, including sticker and a postcard. There you go. Reverse of the card. You can fill it out and send it to your friend. How about that? Also a woven patch. So this is the special edition. I think they call it special edition, Die Hard edition, whatever. So it's a nice little patch there. And also there is a poster of the cover art right there for you. Very, very nice. Of course, I have some favorite tracks on this one. Silent Thunder is really cool. Also Fires On and Angel of Combustion. Or Combustion. Take your pick. Anyways, there's a music video out for Fires On, as well as a visualizer video for the title track. You can check out Fires On at the Nawatham Full Albums YouTube channel. That's NWOTHM Full Albums. And you can check out Power Strike at the Dying Victims Productions YouTube channel. So I feel like if you dig bands like Enforcer, Riot City, and Striker, you're going to really love Sinner Rage, especially when they lean more into the metal. And given that this is a debut record, I'm actually pretty excited to hear a follow-up album. So, if anything I said about Power Strike sounds like it might be of interest to you, I would definitely recommend checking into Sinner Rage. Good stuff. Next up is the second studio album from American thrash metal band Misfire. This is Product of the Environment, released in 2025 by MNRK Heavy. So this is a total revamp lineup for Misfire, as the drummer is the only member left from the first album. This includes new singer Tim Jensen, who's a little grittier and less yelly than the first guy, but also brings a harsh melodic sensibility to Misfire's vocal slot. Anyways, the album opens with the instrumental short Borrowed Time, largely comprised of layered acoustic riffs, with electric riffing coming more to the fore as the track progresses. It's less than a minute and a half long and aptly brings us to the first proper track, Day to Day, which kicks in with some solid thrash chord riffing, straight out of the classic Exodus playbook, which might be more relevant once we get to one of the guest musicians here. Loving the variety in vocal cadences, not just from track to track, but even within a single song, so nothing gets stale or overused in the vocal department. Likewise with the drumming, which doesn't get comfortable for any length of time. Riffs are solid, crunching, and well worthy of headbanging, or simply nodding your head during the less frenetic moments. A lot of mid-pace thrashing, but also an occasional turning up of the speed on tracks such as End of an Age, and especially on Artificially Intelligent. Also here a bit of a nod to Pantera and Born to Die, which I heard more of on their first album. In step with that, there is plenty of groove here, but at a generally up-tempo rate. Solos are at times shreddy, melodic, and full of whammy and high energy. And both the riffs and the solos are where you get some faint hints of Testament as well, notably the classic lineup. Loving the breakdown, and we went through hell, as well as the bass and vocal combo on Livin' the Dream. Overall, the tracks are pretty fun, but at the same time heavy and seriously thrash. Also, as I mentioned, a couple notable guest appearances here, including Rob Cavastani from Death Angel, with a guitar solo on the title track, as well as Rob Dukes from Exodus, doing additional vocals on Left for Dead. Both do great jobs on their respective tracks, and of course Dukes on a track from a band that has more than enough love for Exodus makes way too much sense. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, neon green with black splatter. It is limited to 200 copies. Also different splattered pattern on both sides. Love that. Also an insert, lyrics on one side, and more lyrics and credits on the reverse. As for favorite tracks, Day to Day, awesome song, also We Went Through Hell, and Privacy. Though, it's pretty tough to just pick 3 favorites. I mean, the album just kills all the way through. Also, music videos are out for We Went Through Hell, Left for Dead, and Living the Dream, as well as a lyric video for the title track. You can watch them all at the Misfire official YouTube channel. So overall, the record is a mature effort, more mature than last time, and still delivers the solid headbanging thrash in full. Has a slightly different vibe from the first album, which would probably make sense given the lineup changes, but both are really worth their weight for what each one offers. And I'll go out on a limb and say that if you dug the first record, you might dig this one as well, and perhaps for some, even more so. Definitely recommended. Next up is the second studio album from American death doom band Funeral Leech. This is The Illusion of Time, released in 2024 by Carbonized Records. So, 5 tracks in total on this full-length death doom album, so you can assume that the doom is strong with this band, having long tracks that mostly average between 8 and 11 minutes for a total runtime of a little over 43 minutes. Anyways, ambient tones and chants ease their way into the opening track, and the sky wept, setting the proper creepy mood for the onslaught to follow. And much of that onslaught will be a slow to mid-pace crush with plenty of tremolo picking, elongated notes, and the occasional pinch harmonic. Vocals are growly, cavernous, filthy, and straight out of the grave, not to mention layered and largely discernible. Some folks might hear Bolt Thrower in this band, but if so, maybe a more macabre version of that, so the menace comes more from that direction than any typical war metal sound. I put them more in the Autopsy camp, but they also stray from that comparison from time to time too. Love the moody note bending throughout Ceaseless Wheel of Becoming, as well as the various bells, chimes, synths, and other ominous sound bits that make their way through the tracks. And the bookends to The Tower are very good examples of that. Not to mention the clearly Carcass-influenced throat clearings, as if the singer is about to spit a serious amount of phlegm at someone. Also, some ponderous doom metal soloing throughout. Admittedly, there does lack a conspicuous separation between tracks at times, having some moments of repetition, but it's not distracting or off-putting at all. I mean, this is the breed of death doom that gets into a lot of mood and atmosphere, so you might find yourself caught in that mire for extended periods of time, but maybe that's just what you want. As for me, yeah, it works. Anyways, vinyl variant for this one is 1 LP, Classic Black. And the reverse. Also, we get a very nice booklet here, which I'll just go through a little bit of. A lot of the lyrics, some artwork, and some photographs. It's a cool layout. I kind of dig it a lot. You know, kind of goes with the front and back of the jacket there. Don't need to go through all of it, but yeah, you get the basic idea. There you go. And reverse. This comes with the gatefold, pics of the band, doing interesting things. There you go. As for favorites, definitely Ceaseless Wheel of Becoming, as well as Chrono Fiction. Both great tracks. You should check those out when you get the chance. Also, an audio clip is available for Ceaseless Wheel of Becoming. You can find that at the Carbonized Records YouTube channel. So thanks also to Melanie over at Melanie Loves Death Metal channel for tipping me off to this record sometime last year. Finally got around to actually picking it up. Also, definitely go over to Melanie's channel and check out her videos, especially if you're as crazy about death metal as she is. Which is pretty crazy, by the way. Anyways, if you're already a fan of a band like Temple of Void, but mixed with a slowed down incantation, maybe classic Autopsy or Grave as well, then this might fit well in your wheelhouse. Lots of filthy, grimy death metal here to enjoy, and I'm certainly going to be playing this one again and again. Next is the compilation album from American heavy metal band Steeler. This is Come Heller Hollywood, 1981 to 1982. Originally released on CD in 2020, but now for the first time on vinyl in 2025 by Lost Realm Records. So, some of us know the backstory here. The band was fronted by Ron Keel, who later on to form the band simply known as Keel. Sometime after this material, Yngwie Malmsteen was in the band for Steeler's one and only album, self-titled. And we might go back into that album again for the sake of reference because, well, it's their only album, and it's what we have to work with. Incidentally, I love the debut Steeler album, which is my motivation for buying this record. So I guess the question is, does this material hold up for Steeler fans? Well, let's get into that. First off, nice to hear earlier versions of tracks I'm already familiar with, such as Cold Day in Hell, Backseat Driver, Hot on Your Heels, and a few others, including yet another cover of the Stones song Let's Spend the Night Together, which the band Keel tackled on no less than 2 consecutive albums. Man, Ron must really love that song. Anyways, this definitely sounds like demo quality material. Not really noisy, in fact it's pretty listenable. And although the specter of Malmsteen has yet to haunt these tracks, they still hold their own quite a bit. Likewise, the tracks aren't fully realized when compared to that studio album, with the solos being fair to good but not, well, Yngwie? Aside from that, the highlight here really is Ron Keel and his very familiar screamy, waily vocals, though these two are in a less developed stage. He also wrote the lion's share of this music, as he did his namesake band as well, so this is a bit of a journey through his writing evolution, even within a few short years. I do enjoy some of the non-album tracks, the ones that didn't make it to the studio record, but you can also hear why most of them didn't make the cut. They're certainly occasionally catchy and rockin', but they do lack punch and grit, not to mention the songcraft of those studio album tracks. So, I get the decision making there. I can also gather from the writing credits that the tracks that made it to the first album were solely written by Ron Keel, whereas the remainder were co-written by then guitarist Michael Dunnigan, so I'm sure that factored in when Yngwie replaced him. Still, the non-album tracks are all worth hearing. And it is funny to see song titles that match those of other LA bands of the time but aren't cover tunes, such as Love Machine and American Metal. I was honestly expecting Wasp and Lizzie Borden respectively, but it wasn't meant to be. Anyways, vinyl variant here is 2LP yellow. It is limited to 150 copies. There are also variants in red, half brown, half orange, and classic black if interested. So it comes with an insert. You get liner notes from both Ron Keel and Michael Dunnigan. Very, very cool. As well as full track credits, who wrote what, and all of that on the reverse. Also a very cool gatefold collage. Checking out all the handbills and flyers and pics from Steeler's early days. Very, very nice. As for favorite tracks, Ready to Explode is really cool. Also Out to Get You and Hot on Your Heels. Also worth the listen is the lost version of Cold Day in Hell that ends the record. The album opens with a less evolved version of the song, but this so-called lost version at the end is way better and a solid closer for the comp. So hearing this, I'm reminded of just how great that self-titled studio record was, and these early demo versions really do hit the spot. And even if some of the tracks are a tad half-baked, it's still a fun collection of tracks, especially if you're already a fan of this band, or even of Ron's follow-up band, which is pretty much the spiritual successor to Steeler anyways. So yeah, check it out if interested. Next up is a demo collection from Canadian death thrash band Slaughter. This is Surrender or Die, originally released on cassette in 1985, but now on vinyl in 2021 by High Roller Records. So, album opens with a chainsaw buzz, and that's an actual chainsaw, not an HM2-driven guitar tone, in the form of Disintegrator. And right away you can hear how comparatively crude and punky the playing is when compared to their 1987 debut album Strapato. So a lot happened with this original lineup in that 2 years, it would seem, including a marked improvement on the vocals, which here are yelly and again kind of punky in a sort of damaged era Rollins meets early DRI kind of way. I could gather they got some inspiration from bands like Hellhammer and Celtic Frost, notably in tracks such as Tyrant of Hell, and especially Tales of the Macabre, though still needing to hone their chops to get there. Regardless of ability, this is still pretty fun, and it gives you an idea where they started and where they're likely to go. And speaking of Hellhammer, they do cover Massacre on this demo. It's a decent rendition given their ability here. Also, the soloing is pretty primitive and fast. You can hear some missed notes here and there, or simply not being able to play both fast and steady. Likewise, we've got those caveman vocals and pretty basic drumming, though the latter can certainly keep up when he needs to. Make sure you also check out the lyrics because they are both intentionally and unintentionally hilarious. Anyways, final variant here is 1 LP, Blood Red. It is limited to 200 copies. Yeah. So it comes with inserts. Of course, you know to expect the High Roller Records gargantuan list of albums that they sell. Jesus. But also you get one specific to the album. Get some graphics and some other fun stuff there on one side, and lyrics on the reverse. Favorites, definitely Incinerator, great track. Also 1 Foot in the Grave and Eve of Darkness. So I always dig these early demo collections from bands, and Slaughter's Strapato album is certainly a classic. So if you don't mind a completely raw and inexperienced version of this band, and you can appreciate it for its energy and breakneck speed, then you might want to look into this one. And if you already love Strapato, I think you'd get something out of this demo collection as well. Check it out. Next is the 13th studio album from Polish blackened death metal band Behemoth. This is The Shit of God, released in 2025 by Nuclear Blast Records. So after a very quick ambient intro, the album begins with the Shadow Elite, bringing blast beats and chaotic notes underneath the commanding growls of Nurgle, accompanied by dark choral voices and an overall militant vibe to the proceedings, the latter of which you're gonna hear a lot. As you would expect, there is a darkly dramatic theme throughout this record, not just in its clearly satanic lyrics, but also in its orchestral structures, interspersed with rapid Black Death riffing. In fact, there are plenty of more epic moments, such as the ones on the title track, as well as speedier songs like Luciferian, and more ponderous efforts, such as O Venus Come, just to point out a little bit of variety here. Of course, the lyrical quality is a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, a lot of times they're evocative and well suited to the music, but there are occasions where they flirt with the juvenile. I mean, it's not really off-putting necessarily, but when Nurgle plays the spelling game in the title track, such as S for the scorn, U for useless, S for the shame, etc., I can't help imagine an evil version of Sesame Street, and that might take some out of the record a little bit. But barring those scant moments, the music really does hold its own with plenty of ferocity, anger, and bombast, befitting the Dark One himself. Might also be fair to say that the record is a tad front-loaded, with side A being a little stronger than side B, but not by leaps and bounds, because there's plenty to enjoy once you flip the record over, including the final track, Augur, the Dread Vulture, which brings a dramatic climax of sorts to close things out. Of course, we could talk about the album title. It's okay, but others might put it in that same juvenile camp with the lyrics I mentioned. Overall, I'm not as bothered by it, though I do feel that they could have done better with the whole album naming thing in general. Not a deal breaker, though. I mean, realistically, I'm here for the music. Anyways, vinyl variant is 1 LP clear, which is basically the wide variant, the wide release variant. That's more specifically, which way does that go? There it is. Also, we've got a very nice booklet. As we all know, Behemoth tends to go a bit big on their presentation, and they're a very image-conscious band, of course. See if I can just wield this thing. Lyrics are in here. Lots of art, design, photography. I won't go through the whole thing. Obviously, I'll skip a bit here. But pretty cool. I always love the packaging on a Behemoth album. I mean, who doesn't? There you go. There's more and more, and then there's the reverse for you. Let's comes Gatefold Jacket, and we're going to have to hold it up this way because the image is vertical. Very nice. I like the spot varnish here, as well as some foil stamping on the front and the back for the track listings. Speaking of which, favorite tracks are The Shadow Elite, The Shit of God, and O Venus Come. There are also music videos available for The Shadow Elite, The Shit of God, Luciferian, and Sowing Salt. You can watch all of those at the Behemoth YouTube channel. So a more straightforward approach this time around compared to the last record. To that effect, at 38 minutes, this is the shortest Behemoth album since 1999's Satanica. Overall, I'm fairly positive about this record and honestly finding it to be the best thing they've done in the last decade. So, if you checked out on this band during that time, maybe give this new record a chance. It doesn't exactly revisit the glory days, but it certainly has a lot to offer. So just another item I picked up that I have less to talk about, but is certainly worth showing. This is Gall's Word with their 10-inch EP called The Humming Mountain, released in 2021 by Season of Mist. And yes, this is a musical project headed by Gall, who you might know better from the band he was in until 2007 called Gorgoroth. 5 tracks here with a runtime of a little under 30 minutes, and it's a mix of melancholic neo-folk and some metal variants. On the A side, we get a lot of interweaving of acoustic guitar and piano playing with soft, melodic, and haunting vocals, but also moments skittering into post-metal dissonance. But on the B side is where the more furious speed and black metal elements factor into what's already established on the A side. Pretty interesting stuff, though maybe an acquired taste for some is needed. So I will show you the inside. We got the inner sleeve with some nice little artwork there. And the record is classic black. There you are. Maybe we should hold it that way for the track listing. There you are. So, very, very nice. Gall's Word, of course, they have a new album out. I was kind of interested in it, and I decided to pick this up because I liked what I had heard from that new album. And this is pretty decent. I might check into this band a little bit more. Very cool. Gall's Word, The Humming Mountain. And if the mountains are humming, you're definitely on some serious drugs. So a nice mix of brand new records and some older, if not slightly older material. Definitely let me know what you think of these albums, if you have other favorites from these bands, or even if you just want to chat about new stuff you're spinning these days. You should leave that and anything else relevant in the comments below. And of course, if this is your very first time to my channel, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting, but also classic and modern metal in general. If that sounds like something of interest and you have yet to subscribe to my channel, it'd be fucking cool if you did that. Also, maybe hit like on this video, and maybe share this one out, maybe share some other videos of mine out with your friends on social media. That'd be pretty great too. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.